Welcome to Carefree and Conscious, paranormal and profound authors with stunning true stories. If you like this type of content, be sure to subscribe. I'm your host, Susanne Wilson, the Carefree Medium and Intuition Educator. Today on Carefree and Conscious, this is what angels want you to know with Rabbi Shai Specht Sandler, an expert in Kabalah and speaking about Kabbalistic angels. Rabbi Shai is a wonderful wedding and life cycle officiant, spiritual therapist, singer-songwriter, author, educator, and life coach. He's based in Las Vegas, Nevada. He's also very popular on social media, especially TikTok with his music and uplifting messages, and YouTube. Rabbi Shai's book is called Changing Curses for Blessings. And now, this is what angels want you to know with Rabbi Shai Specht Sandler. This was recorded in September 2023. Rabbi Shai, welcome to Carefree and Conscious.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Well, we've known each other for quite a few years now, and like a lot of friendships that blossom, it started on social media. You've been a huge help to me over the years. And I appreciate following you on social media, watching your TikToks, your YouTube channel. And I recently had an out-of-body experience listening to some of the sounds that you put together. So there's so much to talk about. But first, what would you like us to know about you and why it is that you do what you do?
I think I do what I do because I really sort of don't have a choice. Now, we all have a choice, but I have always been driven ever since I was a kid to do things like this, to with my music, with my voice. I was gifted with a really great voice, even as a kid. And then thankfully it changed as an adult and became even better. And so I've always been in that realm and very spiritual and very connected to angels and various beings. And my path was chosen through Judaism, through Kabalah. That's how I was born. That's what I was born into. I imagine that in past lives, I was also Jewish. And so I'm just compelled by some, I've had visions, I've had dreams, I've had all kinds of, when I was a kid, I used to be almost trained, being told this is your path. You are going to help people in one way or another. And for me, it's something that I just have to do. I don't know what else to do. I tried different things. I sometimes say I'm going to give up and go elsewhere, and maybe I've taken periods off, but I always somehow come back. It draws me back in, and I get signs. I get lectures sometimes, not bad ones, but like you got to do this. And so I'm finally now at 50 years old, starting to say, all right, I give in. This is what I'm going to do.
Well, you know what? I had to just chuckle a while ago because I was having these electrical issues at my house, and I've got an electrician here now. And I thought, okay, wait a second. I'm going to be talking to my beloved Reb Shai today. What would he say about the situation? Because you talk about trading curses for blessings. And of course, this is just one of those, first world problems of having to have an electrician here. They're running late, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, oh, he would just say, give it to the angels. Yes. Just tell the angels and call on them. Well, how did angels enter into your life? What's that all about for you?
I think from a very young age, I've always we're all surrounded by them, but I've always been very aware of them around me. Specifically, when I was singing, I would feel very spiritual, sort of almost like an out-of-body experience. And then even when I sang spiritual music, it became even more apparent that they were all around me. And I would say around the age of 20, I started studying Kabalah, which you're not really supposed to until you're 40, but I already was kind of, I knew the concept somehow. And I was meditating, and I had this not a near-death experience, but an out-of-body experience where I literally, my soul went out of my body, and I had this whole viewing of what I'm supposed to do, who I am, telling me where I need to go, what I need to do, that this is the beginning of something very big. And when it said big, it said don't get big-headed, but it's something that's going to change your life and other people's lives. And ever since, it's just been one of those things that I'm constantly learning and constantly being shown things. And I have a healthy sense of sort of like doubting it as well. Like sometimes I think, is it real? Is it not? And I go back and forth. And no matter, every time I doubt, something happens. There's a sign, there's a, you know, I see a number on the clock that says, or on the phone that says, yes, this is happening. So it's fascinating. We live in a world that's kind of physical. So physically, our brains and our souls, I really believe this. And I was talking to a psychotherapist about this the other day, that really is saying that science is starting to really think that way, that our souls are separate from our brains, and our brains do operate on their own sometimes. They do kind of bring us down, or they're physical. And so my journey in life is now really to find that way. How do we combine together the perfect way to have our soul and our brains align so that we can live a more harmonious life within ourselves?
Harmony and inner peace helps
Yeah.
to create external peace, because
Yeah.
like you say, as long as we're in bodies, we're not 100% thinking from a soul perspective. So what are some of the ways? I know that you have this beautiful voice and you play piano beautifully. People talk about raising their vibration and changing their frequency, going to a higher frequency, but there's also frequency in music. And I read music, play piano myself, and I always think of the frequencies in music. Tell us a little bit about how you started to stumble on to tying together music and lifting up the soul and healing, and talk about the frequencies.
It started really, again, as a young kid, just singing and realizing what effect it had on people, or even on myself when I was singing or playing instruments. And then later on, as an adult, I sort of got into children's music. By accident, I was asked by an organization of preschools to be their music teacher because they heard me in a summer camp, and they were like, yeah. And I was like, sure, I can do it. I'm, 18, I can do it. But I didn't know a lot of children's music, and I had to start writing, and but pretending that it wasn't my writing, of course, because I thought I wouldn't be legitimized. But just writing these songs and then seeing reactions of kids, and it grew so fast. It became, from there I exploded into spirituality, into more of the Jewish music, and just really seeing what music does to people, especially to children, how it could change moods. It could uplift people. Just a simple children's song, for example, or it could really invoke a lot of emotion, sadness, happiness. It could cleanse us. It could calm us. I realized it was a safe place for us to exist. Later on, I did therapy through music in hospitals, and it really all came to me. And when I was speaking, when I do this angel work, when I speak to them, the messages are, and really in Kabalah, it's in the literature, it's very clear that the angels are musical. That's what they do. They sing. They're not human, so they don't have feelings per se. They do sing, and their song emanates through the universe and creates things. So the world was created through words, through song, through melody. Everything around us, if you just listen, is sound. And so then I started recently kind of getting into more of the music, the different music frequencies, which I'm still kind of learning about. Things that I kind of knew intuitively, but I'm learning the technical terms for them. And just the fascinating way that you can take music and turn it into something a lot more spiritual, a lot more involved. And like I was saying, our whole universe is made out of music. I've heard, I was listening years ago, there was a YouTube channel that took crickets. Somehow they could amplify the sound of the crickets. You know, we hear like this annoying chirp, and it went all the way down to like, what do they sound like? And it was like a choir of angels. I mean, they literally were singing, and it just was so beautiful. And since then, I still get annoyed if I'm in a bad mood when I hear them, but and we've had a lot of them in Vegas at some points. But sometimes I also say, all right, let me see if I can get my brain to hear that beautiful angelic song. And I think that's what it's all about. Music just drives us.
Well, you had this epiphany or an experience of light, and there was music involved in that, or what was, what would you characterize it anything like this? When I had the near-death experience, I kept hearing a continual crescendo of music that came in waves that sort of like hit me like physically, like my body was vibrating to this music. And I once met this reporter from the BBC who was trying to put together something she called the Dead Symphony, where she interviewed me and lots of people about what they heard. But I don't know if she ever really could recreate that music. What does the etheric music sound like to you?
To me, it's more it's like a choir of beautiful beings singing.
Like the voices, but the voices are like instruments, not exactly like voices. But
And some of them are, and some of them are more like instruments.
Yeah.
And there are all kinds of different voices and different harmonies, and there are lots of different harmonies, which is really beautiful. So it's kind of like a choir that doesn't just do like two different harmonies, but it has maybe hundreds of harmonies and different to hear it. And then, and then through that, it almost sounds like maybe a harp or a, violin or something, like you can hear
because
it.
We're trying to make sense of it. Do you think like the brain's trying to figure it out? It's like with the binaural beats, we have two different hemispheres of the brain being activated, and we're trying to make sense of it. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about the solfeggio frequencies that you're working with, and how does that relate to the brain and changing our frequency?
It's a different way of hearing things. And so two different people can hear the same music when you play it, but you're each going to have a slightly different experience. They kind of are like beats that resonate in a different area of our brain as well, because they're not because they come from the other realm. They're sort of more spiritual, they're more angelic. They sort of come from there. And so when our brain hears it, number one, it calms us. It also allows our brain to connect with our soul a little more, or a lot more in some cases. And it allows you to kind of relax and enter a different kind of stage where you're feeling safe, and you're feeling loved, you're feeling seen, and then you're able to say, okay, brain, now I'm in control, and now we're going to have the experiences that we need to have, which is a really interesting thing. And I'm still learning all the, there's a little bit of science to it, and I'm still studying about, what exactly the mechanisms are. But if we take that away, just the simple fact that it changes something in our brain, it's probably enough for most people,
Is it because in part the angelic realm is familiar to us and we've forgotten it for now? Could it also be because we have angels around us and maybe they're singing to us to communicate in some way? How do you make sense of this all? Should we be trying to figure out, like, do you think we should be trying to figure out who is our guardian angel? What are they like? And do you believe that's even possible?
It is possible. I don't think we should try to figure it out unless we really want to. And some people, and now when I say that, some people think that they want to, but they don't. So if you're trying to communicate and you're thinking, oh, I'm doing all the right things, and you're still not communicating, it probably means that you have to sort of change direction. You don't fully want to, or you're not approaching it from the right direction. But they are all around us. Music, when we listen to classical music, especially, but any kind of music, people say, oh, this music is bad. There's no bad music. It's all from the same source. But especially when we listen to timeless things like classical music, all of these composers, I believe, were very much influenced by the angels. Because I know for myself as a songwriter, you enter, whether you say that you're spiritual or you're not, you can be atheist, you can say, but every single songwriter that I know feels some sort of a connection, a home, realizes it's really not coming from me. Yes, it is coming from me, but there's some kind of other source that's using me to be able to write these songs. And it doesn't matter what it is. It could be a children's song. It could be anything at all. And so, yes, it's kind of like our home. It's when we can connect with angels, we connect with our home. We connect with our inner selves, with our beings.
Wow. It's like coming home when we connect with them. So we don't necessarily have to name them unless we're talking to them and don't want to say, hey, you. Sure. I've had so many angelic beings tell me my name is music. Mm-hmm. Or I ask, what name shall we call you? And they sing something. And I'm like, that's the answer. And this has been going on for decades. And you're helping me understand why they're not being cryptic. No. It simply is a different way of communication, isn't it?
It's what you can handle. So in other words, you hear exactly what you need to hear, and in the way that you're here on Earth, your brain will be able to process the information. So there are archangels, very few of them, but there are hundreds and thousands and probably millions of angels. And they each have different purposes. They each have different tasks. And they communicate with us in ways that we can understand. So even if you think, oh, I've never seen it, because a lot of people think communicating with an angel or maybe loved ones beyond is kind of like communicating like as we are now. But a lot of times it's not, as it's more of a nuance, a sign, we see a number on the phone, we hear something unusual, a bird is doing something kind of funny in our backyard. It's funny, it's unusual the way it flies, or it's really small, or, so all these are ways for angels to communicate with us. And also when we hear music, the angels very much communicate with us. If you really listen and you're having an emotion, kind of listen to what that emotion really says, and you can hear them as well.
So even hip hop or rap, yes, whatever, if it touches something in us, does that create an opening?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's no, as human beings, we try to make sense of things. Some human beings try to control things. And so we're told a lot of different messages, but there really isn't bad music or bad, something that's bad in that sense. If it invokes some kind of a feeling in us, it's supposed to, whatever that is, and it's something then we need to look at. Why am I having that? What is it really telling me?
So when you wrote the book, Changing Curses for Blessings, and the tagline, I think, is loving yourself and the world around you. When you first sat down to write that book, did you have in your mind, an idea of what is a curse? I mean, because a blessing, a mitzvah, I think everybody thinks they know or knows what's a blessing. Sometimes things that we don't think are blessings turn out to be blessings. Did you start from that premise, or what was the impetus for the book?
Yeah, there's a famous story in the Torah, which some people call the Old Testament, about a prophet that's about to curse the Israelites. But instead, he really can't do it, and he offers a blessing. And it changes the whole course of things, because had he cursed them, they would have had a different path. And he chooses instead, he says, I need to change this because a blessing is much more powerful. So when I started writing the book, it was kind of, I think, I was reading that passage, maybe it was close to the time when we read that in the Torah. And I was also kind of on this journey of trying to figure out what that means. You know, I went through a thing where I went through a really bad experience at a workplace, and I was so enraged, and it was two people. It was a president and his wife, and I went and I you know, found all these curses and, you know, in text, and, you know, and I stood there and I very Kabbalistic and candles, and I was reading them, and, you know, and it really did affect these people really badly. But it also came back to bite me. And for a couple of years after that, I was having a lot of the curses were hitting me. And so it was that aha moment that I've known, but really, you know, I acted out of impulse, that when we curse someone, be careful, it's going to come back to you. And so I was striving to kind of write this book about, you know, just with stories and very lighthearted, but about how really can we just, if you really want to curse someone, can you change it and bless them instead? Even if you don't believe in the, you know, even if they're evil, whatever it is you believe, but can we change it around and bless them? Or even if things are happening to us, instead of cursing and saying, this and this, let's say something positive, because the angels, that's what they respond to. When we become, and it's hard sometimes because we do feel, you know, enraged and things like that, but we have to be careful. And so this book was sort of a lighthearted way to open people's hearts and minds into not being perfect, not you can't curse. Like cursing, you know, you can say the F word and the S word and whatever these are not, we're not talking about that. We're talking about literally with conviction, cursing someone, like saying that they will have bad luck or something, or, you know,
Like really like wishing them the worst.
Exactly.
Right? Not just, oh, darn it. And, you know,
Exactly.
just really wanting something bad to happen to them and picturing it. Then so I would say in my vernacular that we're creating karma that we're tied to.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how does Kabalah look at that?
Yeah, in the same exact way, is that we words are very powerful, and so when we speak them out loud, we can create. You know, the world was created by words, according to Kabbalah, and songs, and so anything that we say out loud or to ourselves can manifest itself. And so sometimes we have to be a little bit mindful of what we do, but that's not to say that we need to suppress ourselves or not be who we are, or become these saints, that, you know, projecting sainthood or anything like that. That's not what it's about. It's finding the balance between, you know, really just being mindful and also being authentically who you were supposed to be in this world.
Okay. So what is the difference between Judaism and Kabbalah? Would we say that Kabbalah is the mystical side of Judaism?
Yeah.
Oh, you know, if somebody's never heard of Kabbalah before, or they've only heard of it because of a celebrity is practicing it, what's like a two or three, this is really putting you on the spot, but I'm sure you've heard it before, but what is like a 2 or 3 sentence definition of Kabbalah?
Yes, so the word Kabbalah means to receive. So it's a simple thing. It's receiving spirituality. It's not at all separate from Judaism. It's just the more mystical side of Judaism. It's very embedded in everything that Judaism does. The holidays, the readings, the Torah. It just takes it to a little bit of a higher level, a more mystical level. And it's a very powerful, very insightful way to look at life. Einstein was a Kabbalist, and so a lot of his creations came from studying Kabbalah and trying to prove or disprove things. Quantum physics is all in there, the Big Bang Theory, even a way to deal with evolution versus creation. There's no conflict in Kabbalah because it really ties it all together. So it's just a way to look at the universe. Yes, and it's become a little bit watered down, but I think because it's sort of now the time for the world to awaken to that kind of spirituality.
And with the mathematics, like you mentioned, Einstein, the mathematics comes into the sacred geometry,
Exactly.
and critical thinking is it's intrinsic.
And science, and it's not anti-science. It just basically says that science is the magic that we tap into. And if you think about it, it makes sense.
Wow.
You know, we didn't know things hundreds of years ago, and now we do. But that's all part of spirituality in the world we live in, is that we get to discover. We're free beings, we have free will, and we also get to discover this amazing mystery. So, and basically, Kabbalah tells us that, you know, this world is a veil between us and the next step, and that we are constantly striving to find the truth and to fix this world so that we can get back to that beautiful place that we started from.
So is that next place an afterlife, a before life, a during life? What about reincarnation?
Yeah, it's all of the above. And reincarnation is a big part of it, that you can come back, your soul can come back and does come back into this world. Many, many times it can. In fact, before you come into this world, we can decide, and you'll see the dog agrees. Before we come into the world, we can decide on our paths, and sort of not everything, but sort of a trajectory of what we would like to do or where we would like to go. And we forget everything, and then we start again. And so we get the chance to reinvent or follow the exact same path that we chose, or do something new.
Wow. Well, I know that some of my community, they're here with us live. I want to get to some questions, and Diane will give us a kind hand with that. But just before we do that, I want to ask you, what if I am practicing a completely different set of religious beliefs, and I'm vibing with what you're saying and I want to know more, but I feel conflicted about checking out Kabbalah? What would your response to that be?
You know, from my perspective, there's sort of one big overwhelming truth, and then there are many, many, many ways to get to it. And so that's what other religions or other perspectives are. So we all have different paths to get to a place. And like I started saying, is that we each have our own way of looking at it, and that's why we get different messages. So I don't see a problem with anyone exploring any kind of spirituality or religion, or even being an atheist, but saying, okay, I want to explore science, you know?
Well, you know, I've been around different religions, specifically Christianity and Judaism, of many, many years. And we've talked about this before. My granddad, that I was really close to, was a preacher. And there is a verse in the Christian Bible that says, no one comes to the Father but through me. And I remember my granddad saying, and this is back in the 60s and 70s, I'm a little girl, he's saying, and what is Jesus saying? He is saying, no one comes to the Father but through love, because Jesus was love. And so I know I'm probably going to draw some heat, get some emails. I always do when I bring that up, but it really is about love. And that's my 2 cents.
It's about love. And, you know, in the social media era, we define love as some kind of a feeling and a, fuzzy, warm feeling. That's not quite what love is about. So it's about you discovering what the true meaning of love is, you know?
Well, I went to my first Seder. I think I was in my teens. And I remember as a clairvoyant looking around the table, and I could see the lights opening around each person. And there was an angel for each person at that table. And some of them were like big lights, and the lights behind the angels looked like wings. Some of them were smaller lights. Some people I could tell were just like, just checked out, going, through the Seder by rote, but they still had an angel. It was like that angel's there for you, and the love and the community feeling was very strong. I get chills thinking about the very first time. I think it's a good experience to just open your eyes and try something new.
Yeah, and we are now in this between Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, and Yom
Yeah.
Kippur, Day of Atonement. So it's a 10 days of really the heavens are open now. And it's a time for us, for our souls to really connect with the angels and really, you know, think of a new year, but in a different way. Not, you know, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but more like a spirituality, like awakening. And Yom Kippur, it says that the sort of the heavens close. It's kind of like 11/11. We're in 11/11 for 10 days. But in this opening, we can really, if we want to, we are really able to elevate our soul and find our higher being.
Love that. Let's see if we have questions here. Diane, does anyone want to ask a question?
I have a quick question. Is talking about the angels. I was raised Catholic, and the Catholic Church tended to put a lot of levels on angels. That you had your guardian angel, which, you know, we were raised to believe we always had that by our side and we would pray to them. But there were these other levels, the seraphim, the cherubim, the archangels.
Yep.
Is that similar in your belief system? Are there levels of angels, and can we reach up to those highest levels?
Yes, and not only is it similar, I know that when I studied to be a rabbi, a lot of priests secretly studied Kabalah with us. And so it's a very, Kabalah is very prevalent in the Catholic Church as well. I say secretly, I don't think it's meant to be a secret, but it's something that they do. It's sort of an elevation. And yeah, it's very much taken from the traditions are very similar. And so there are different levels of angels and different ways to connect to them. In Kabbalah, we go even a little further, that there are 10 steps to reach the final, you know, being, creator. And so it's a very similar, and each one of those angels in their levels does that job, you know, what they're supposed to do.
To expand on that just a little bit, let me ask, do you feel the energy of an angel yourself? And do you feel a difference of energy depending on what type of angel you're connecting with?
Sometimes the different type, sometimes and sometimes not. It has to sort of hit me in the face sometimes. I do feel the shift of energy, specifically when I'm doing music, when I'm writing music, when I'm singing, when I'm praying, when I pray, it's singing. So definitely there's a shift, and there's a brighter sense of the world at that moment.
Here's a question. How can we best protect ourselves from other people's curses? Do we send those people love?
Oh, that's wow. Sending love. You were talking about love, how we have this concept that, you know, we have to make ourselves feel love to somebody, and it's hard to make yourself feel love. So what do you recommend about protecting ourselves from other people's curses by sending them love? Yay, nay, maybe?
So I don't think we can fully protect ourselves from curses, but what we can do is sort of build a shield around us, so that kind of like, I know it's controversial, but I'll use this as an example, like a vaccine doesn't always fully prevent a disease, but it helps you fight it off or make it milder. So that's the same thing for the curses, is that we can't, first of all, we don't know if they're going to curse us or not. Sometimes even people who we think are enemies might not curse us. And sometimes people we don't even think about will curse us. So there's nothing we can really do about that, but we can get that concept of love, of self-love, of awareness, of knowing who we are. And then we build our, you know, soul immune system, as it were, to the point where we have a nice shield around us. So these curses either land very softly, or they sort of just disappear. They never reach us.
Oh, nice. Okay. I never think about that you may yourself get really fixated on this person's my rival or my arch enemy, and they may not be giving you a thought at all. And then there's somebody out there that's, jealous or sending you ill wishes all the time. So for me, I know it's when I wake up in the morning, the first thing is, thank you. I have another day. Give me the work to do. Show me how to do it. Make my lessons as easy as possible. What do I need to know today? See what comes in. And then I'm in a golden bubble bathed in white light. And I know to just do that one time a day. I'm not going to run around, asking for protection all day long, because that focuses me on, I must be protected from something. I must be protected from, it's like once a day when I sleep, it's a new night, a new day. I do it again. There's days I forget, but I don't feel like, I'm naked to the ill will of people, because it's like you're generally a nice person and you're trying to do the right thing every day. You're not real open to an attack. But there are many people that are going to watch this and go, yeah, but I'm a light worker. I'm doing healing work or counseling work, or, I'm helping others, or, I have an 8-to-5 job, but I'm also studying, spirituality. And so does making my light shine brighter make me a target for energies that don't belong here? What should I do about that? What do you say?
I think that so if we, as someone who studied psychology and studies psychology, again, the connection between the science and the spiritual, we use the term self-love, we use the term, healing your trauma. There are all kinds of terms that we use scientifically, and they are terms that could be applied to the spiritual soul as well. All of these things, all of that kind of work helps us to become less, I don't want to use the word paranoid, but there's another word, probably a better word, about, is someone out to get me? It's a lot of self-confidence. It's a lot of that comes from the fact that our soul is disconnected and our brain is running amok, and due to all kinds of things. Could be trauma, could be all kinds of childhood things, grief. And so when we do the work to find ourselves with, psychologically and spiritually, that is the best way for us to gain protection and to be strong, and to not even worry about, is someone cursing me or are they not, And not all things that happen to us, bad things in life that happen, are a curse either. It's just the nature of our world. I mean, it's very complicated. We could get into it, but it's the nature of our world that things happen in our lives. And it doesn't always mean that we were cursed. It could just be something that's happening for different reasons.
Well, very nice to hear that. On the much lighter side, why do you love performing weddings? What is the thing? Is there a moment in doing a wedding? And do you sing at all the weddings that you officiate at? And tell us, what's that like?
Yeah, I definitely sing at all the weddings, and people are a bit shocked when I start singing. It's kind of nice because they don't expect it. They don't expect, most people who do weddings, even if they sing, it's very, it's like a cute thing. I really put my heart and soul and I sing, and people are shocked by it. And what I love about it is just the energy of two people who are coming together. They found this match between them, a soul match. It's a physical thing, and it's beyond that. It's also a soul match. Everybody that I marry, we do a little bit of pre-counseling so that we can see, we can really make sure that we're aligned. And it's just such a joyous thing. And it's even, every time someone gets married, the heavens open and the angels sing and they dance, and they're so happy, because that is sort of the ultimate love. Besides the creator and the ultimate love, that's the closest that we get to experiencing love. And so when I see couples and their families, sometimes they came together and their families are not always that happy about it, but they are solid and they're strong, and they're two whole circles creating a whole other world. It's just amazing, and it's so joyous. And the ceremonies for me have to reflect that. And so we sing, we sometimes we clap, we dance, and it's so joyous. And it tells us in various sources that when two people get married, the whole universe is just overjoyed.
That sounds beautiful. And, I've heard from guides and loved ones on the other side that are coming through for a sitter that even if there is a divorce or a death or a separation later, that something was fulfilled in that relationship. So many things were fulfilled in that relationship. And these are not really losses or really failures. Although we miss who we were with that person when a relationship comes to an end, there's still beauty in the learning,
We have to realize that as human beings, we're not supposed to strive for sainthood. A lot of teachers of spirituality tell us that, give us the messages that, we have to be this happiness all the time and love all the time, whatever that means. And if we experience any kind of strife or sadness or bad things, or we act out, that's terrible or whatever, we have to think the whole point of being on this earth is that human experience. And so when we talk about holiness, for example, holiness is not just some church or synagogue or place where you're praying and you're meditating. It's going to the bathroom. I know it sounds funny, but it's the mundane things that you do that help you be alive. It's the mood swings that you have. It's all of that, the messiness of life. That is what we're here to do, because our soul needs to grow. And so, yes, we should strive for the love, for the peace. We always need to have that, but realizing that we're never quite going to get, as long as we're in this life. Once we reach that, we're going to be somewhere else. So we're never quite, this life always is going to have a little bit of strife in it. But what we can do is we can learn how to be, comfortable in our skins, comfortable with our brains, with our souls, with our bodies, and embrace things as they happen, and allow ourselves sometimes to be a little bit, off, as people would say.
Yeah, maybe you're grieving even if you don't think you're grieving. Maybe no person or pet has passed, but you may be grieving a loss of a way of life or a loss of what you thought was going to happen. So you have to go through that. There's a question here. It says, I would really like to know, can our angels help us when going through a personal hardship? And that's what we're talking about right now. And the person asking this says, if I never before have connected with angels, where would I even start? And they're also thanking you that this has been very insightful and informative. So thank you. So where would you start? First off, I know there's angels. I think I know, but I haven't had a personal experience. What's the first couple of things I should do?
First couple of things is, first of all, there are all kinds of different books and resources out there that you can look at. But the first thing to do is just to literally just sit with yourself and take a few breaths, maybe close your eyes if you need to, and see if you can hear anything or see anything, and don't force anything. Just allow things to happen as they were. The second thing you can do is literally speak to the angels. Have a conversation. You can do it out loud. You can do it in your head, and see what you hear. Often we think some of our thoughts are the angels speaking to us, and so try to see, are these thoughts part of me? In other words, is it my brain? Is it, are these anxious thoughts? Or is this something that's more from the gut? And it's something else speaking to me. And it's going to come in the form of thoughts. And then the second thing, or the third or the fourth, is go out into nature and just take a walk. If you're by an ocean, go to the ocean and sit there. If you're by a forest, and so forth, even just in your neighborhood, just take a walk and get lost in your thoughts, and then try to hone into them and see if there's something trying to communicate with you.
Didn't you create a dynamic journal for communicating with the angels? And which did somebody start that, and how did they do it?
Yeah, so that's on Amazon, and it's basically a journal that it gives you some creative ideas of how to communicate, some imagery, some meditations, and then you also kind of write down your experiences. And so it helps you begin the process of communicating with the angels. That's a good thing as well, is to keep a journal, is to sort of have these conversations. And, you know, you might think you're crazy at first. I'm talking to myself. That's okay. And then just keep having them and maybe writing them down and see if something sticks.
Love that. So what final thought would you like to leave everyone with? And how can they work with you? I understand that you do counseling online. I don't know if you have lots of time for that, but what would you like to leave us with today?
Basically, rabbishai.com is where you'd find most, you know, you can contact me directly. There's a forum there. There's a phone that you can text or call. You can find me on TikTok. If you type in Rabbi Shai, you'll find me on TikTok. I'm on Facebook. So there are plenty of ways to reach out and connect on YouTube. And then we can go from there, you know, just say hello. I usually try to answer back if I can. And I just want people to know that, you know, it's okay for us to a lot of us feel unsafe. And a lot of us, we say, especially now, but it's a human condition, is that sometimes we feel unsafe, especially if we've had some childhood issues or anything, or relationships. And just know that the angels are all around us. All we have to do is reach out, literally, even if you don't think you get an answer, and just reach out and speak to them. Listen to a favorite music. Music is one of the best ways to communicate, because when you have, all of us have different things that we relate to, and different styles of music, and different things that, you know, there's a song that you love. Play it, even if you cry when you hear it. It's emotional. Know that in that moment you are connecting with angels. They are oftentimes, if it's grief, they're cleansing you. That's why you're crying and you're feeling the emotion. If it's happiness, they're there with you and they're elevating your spirit. And so always know that you're never alone, even when you feel like you are, and that the angels are just there surrounding us.
Oh, my friend, Rabbi Shai, thank you.
Thank you.
Visit our website, carefreemedium.com, or find us on social media @carefreemedium. Thanks for supporting Carefree and Conscious.